of those first round picks. Everybody's going to hit. You couldn't miss. Now, Shane, you can correct me if I'm wrong. You've been doing this a little bit longer than I have. I think if the math is correct, about 40% of your first round picks bust. Does that sound right?
40 seems low. I mean, I guess if you're looking at the ranges, what's it? The first 3 or 4 picks usually is a really high hit rate, right? So that drags the averages up. And then the further you get down in the first round, obviously the worse those hits get. And then you get into the second round and it's like, oh, and then third and fourth, it's like, nope, not going to happen. This is not. And then I loved it when people are like, oh, no, I targeted this guy in the third round. Like, no, you fucking didn't. You lucked out. Like, just say what it is. Like, you might have liked the guy, but if you liked him that much, you would have jumped for him in the first round. Stop it.
Yep. Jerry, anything to add to that? I've always said 50%. One of the articles that I actually wrote many moons ago was comparing rookie picks to gambling. And I said first round picks are about 50%. It's like if you play blackjack stone cold perfectly, it's about a 50-50 proposition. And I think the 40% may come from the overall NFL first round, where when you add in the defensive players and the all 32, maybe that's where I got the 40%. What about you, Jerry? Does 40-50% sound right to you?
Yeah, I mean, you guys haven't seen my dynasty teams. It's way the hell lower than that.
Oh, yes, I have.
Corey Davis, you motherfucker, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds about right. It's and the problem is people, no matter what, whoever they get in the first round, they always think that dude's gold. Everybody speaks in absolutes in this game, and it drives me bonkers, man. And like Shane said, like, I targeted them, man. To quote Randy, don't piss on my shoes and tell me it's raining. Like, I don't want to hear your nonsense.
And the funniest part is that if you go on Twitter most of the time, if they're talking about COVID, the NFL season, whether it's going to happen or not, the NBA bubble, 99% of these people are all doom and gloom, unless they have a player they like, and then they have nothing but sunshine and rainbows flying out their asshole. It's absolutely mind-boggling. It's like, do you hate everything except player X, whoever that is? It's confounding. But anyway, I'm going to get these two guys' opinions on a handful of players. These guys were drafted anywhere from the 2017 class all the way through 2019 and did not include the current rookies. We've yet to see them take the field. So the first one, we're going to go with a quarterback. He is going to be somewhat polarizing because a lot of people like him. I used to love him, and now I'm a little bit heading the other way. So I'm going to start with our guest, Shane. Sam Darnold, is he going to, in 2020, is his career going to be the new hotness finally, or is he just old and busted at this point?
Fuck you, Adam Gase. God damn it. I'm gonna, if I had to jump into camp, it's gonna be old and busted. Even though he's still only 23 years old. I think Adam Gase is just slowly sucking any chance that kid had of being a viable high-end quarterback, fantasy or NFL quarterback, just sucking that right out of Sam Darnold. Another season with Adam Gase, I don't know that he's going to be able to survive it, and we might be looking at journeyman status after that. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, because he's a guy that I really loved, and his tool set is really fun. Like, he's way more mobile than people give him credit for. He's a good quarterback. It's just, I think Adam Gase is a terrible offensive mind. And we've seen what he does. Everywhere he goes, fantasy fortunes dive. And then as soon as people leave him, all of a sudden they're good. You look at Ryan Tannehill, you look at Kenyon Drake. There's two examples. Devontae Parker finally breaks out when he's freed from the shackles of Adam Gase. I know it's narrative, but at some point, there's too many coincidences.
Point, yeah, the habit, the consistency of it has to mean something.
Right.
I hear you. I don't know. Like you said, though, he's 23. So I don't know if I'm ready to say that. But at the same time, like, how shot is this man's confidence at this point? Because he's getting another year of Adam Gase, and it's already, he's seeing ghosts as it is. And now he's going to have another season of it. And so we'll go into his fourth year once they finally get someone that's not Adam Gase. And I'm supposed to expect that's when he's going to blow. I don't know. It's like my gut says that he's not old and busted, but the risk, man, like the risk to bet on something that you just have not seen, it's tough. That's a stretch.
Yeah, and obviously anyone who's listening to this show for any length of time, what a fan of this young man I was coming out. But man, situation in life is everything. And if you believe in QB rating, I know a lot of people use QBR. This is a guy over the last 2 years who has a worse QB rating than Mitch Trubisky. And we all know where Mitch Trubisky is going to be plying his trade next year, somewhere other than Chicago. And the whole point of taking these young rookies, and remember, they gave up a fortune to the Colts to trade up and get this guy. I do agree with the fact that he is still young. He's younger than Joe Burrow, but I'm also agreeing with Jerry that his confidence is shot. I don't think he's going to be the new Hotness in 2020. I think it's already time to consider him a journeyman, maybe like a mid to low end QB2 at this point in his career. So I've got to hit this guy with old and busted. All right, Jerry, I'm going back to you, man. Another guy, super polarizing right now in the offseason. He's gotten every new weapon under the sun, including a new offensive line help. It's Drew Lock, man. They gave this guy a good slot receiver in KJ Hamler. They gave him my favorite wide receiver pre-draft, Jerry Jeudy. They added his college teammate, Albert Okwuegbunam. And they already had Noah Fant, Cortland Sutton. Oh, and hey, why not? We'll put Melvin Gordon in the backfield for you. So Drew Lock, is he going to break out this year and be the new Hotness, or is he already trending toward old and busted?
I think you have to put him in the new Hotness, but I don't love him as much as everybody else does. Everybody's on this dude's jock like he is the prettiest girl, and I just think he's the prettiest girl in a dark bar that's in a seedy part of town. That's the kind that you would find Shane at. He's in there like swimwear. I don't know. I mean, the problem is the dude's shown me nothing that says he's going to be old and busted. Like he wasn't excellent. I mean, he only threw for over 200 yards in 2 of the 5 games he played last year. But if you're going to only throw 3 interceptions in 5 games, and they were all the first 3, and then you didn't get any of the last 2, not too bad. And they gave you everything you could ever want. And here's the thing. If my man does not perform with everything that he has going on, he is never going to, and you will know very quickly what his situation is.
What about you, Shane? Are you on team Drew Lock or no?
Yeah, I have to be. Just the situation, like Jerry was saying, like he's got Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Noah Fant, like just those 3 alone. That's a hell of a trio. And then you add in Melvin Gordon. And then just for shits and giggles, they gave him his college tight end, Albert Okwuegbunam. And, you still got Philip Lindsay there, Royce Freeman. Like, just it's an embarrassment of riches. Like you said, KJ Hamler. Like, KJ Hamler is like, what, the 6th option on that offense? I mean, if he almost has to perform well. Like, I don't see how he can't. Like, if he's anything worse than the QB 14, I think it's a bad year. Like, just those cast of weapons, I hate using cliches, but just they're too good. So he's going to be good. I mean, he has to be.
Yeah, I agree. I was very concerned about the volume, but the one thing that I'm absolutely going to lean toward the new Hotness with is he plays in a defense that's going to be much better on offense. The Raiders invested in their offense. Everybody in the AFC West is chasing the Kansas City Chiefs. And he's got the weapons. And I'm looking at the stats of his new offensive coordinator, Pat Shurmur. So 8 times out of 13 seasons, Pat Shurmur's offense as the OC or the head coach has finished in the top 12 in pass attempts. And that's good news because last year there was not a lot of pass attempts to go around under I don't remember the gentleman's name. It was Roger, and it was an Italian name. But I like the offensive coordinator. We've seen good things out of Pat Shurmur. Not everybody can be a great head coach. I will say that for sure. Right. But as an OC, you're familiar with him, Shane, from his time in Philly. As the OC in Philly, he was 6th in pass attempts, 5th in pass attempts, and he coached Case Keenum to his best season as a pro. We saw Daniel Jones have a much better than expected rookie season under Pat Shurmur, and that Vic Fangio, the head coach, is not going to be meddling in the offense as he's more of a defensive guy. So for those reasons, you have the weapons, you have an offensive coordinator with a track record of helping not only offenses, but quarterbacks, even ones that are elite talented quarterbacks. For those reasons, I've got to call him the new hotness. All right. The Rams backfield, man, there are so many guys. And there was a guy last year that in 1 QB leagues was a borderline, top 9 pick, and that's Darrell Henderson. So back to Shane, man, Darrell Henderson, is he going to have some new hotness, or is he going to be old and busted already due to the arrival of a man named Cam Akers?
Yeah, no, he's dead. He's like beyond old and busted. He's like dust. Cam Akers, and I've said this before, Cam Akers out of the big 5 running backs is the one that scares me the most. But I still think he'll run circles around Darrell Henderson. I mean, the Rams showed you what they think of him. You know what I mean? Like they saw what they saw last year and said, you know what? We need to go running back again. And they got one that, his skill set is a 3-down back. I know Sean McVay is talking about using a 4-man committee, a 5-man committee or whatever, but that's about as obvious as coach speak as you'll hear. Just like, Ronald Jones being the starter for Tampa Bay. It doesn't really matter what a coach says today because Cam Akers is just that much better than Henderson. Henderson will be a nice change of pace back. I think he's a guy that sometimes can give you some flex. And if Cam Akers ever goes down, well, great. But not while Cam Akers is healthy. That's his backfield.
What about you, Jerry? I see you nodding your head. For those not watching the video version, Jerry has got his trucker hat on backward. This is for the audio audience. And it's a trucker cap. Jerry, old and busted, or is he going to have a shot at the new hotness in 2019?
Breaks my damn heart, but I'm going to say old and busted. Personally, he's the guy that I want just because, like Shane said, like he said, he's the scariest of the big 5 running backs. I just don't like him out of the big 5 running backs. I think he struggled way too much in college for me to think he's going to somehow be this miraculously, efficient dynasty asset. I don't see it. But also, like Shane said, they told you exactly what they thought about him when they took Cam Akers in the 2nd round. You don't do that if you think you have the guy that you're going to use. You have to look at all of the flags that pop up, and that is a giant one. I like Darrell Henderson because I think he's going to be the cheapest, and I really don't think either of them are going to be worth a whole ton. I think there's more sizzle than steak for Cam Akers, and he's much cheaper. But as far as relying on either of them, I'm not on board. So I have to say old and busted. If you can get out from under it, which it's going to be tough because that perception is just down in the dumps. But I would try anything, really.
Sometimes you have to look at the obvious. And the coaching staff, to Shane's point, is telling you exactly what they think about this running back room. They had 5, I believe it was 5 starters lost on defense between the retirement of Waddle and the loss of in free agency, and they used their best pick, number 52 overall, on Cam Akers. That should tell us a lot. And it was reported that part of the reason why Darrell Henderson didn't see the field a lot last year was because he had a very difficult time picking up the offense. Now, maybe he'll have a better grasp of it in year 2. I'm not so sure. If I'm taking Darrell Henderson anywhere, it's in a best ball league, like that 3rd to the last round, 2nd to the last round type pick that I know that because I know he's going to have like a 29-point game between COVID and injuries and everything. He's going to, and his speed and his big playability, he's going to have that game where he has, a couple of long touchdown runs, but good luck guessing when that's going to be. So I would much rather only have him in best ball, whether that's a seasonal or a dynasty best ball. Outside of that, he is definitely old and busted for me. So I've got these guys warmed up. I've got another handful for them. We've got a good lather going on them. So let's go into the guy that, as we record this show live on Wednesday and go to audio on Friday, Ronald Jones came out today that Bruce Arians said that he is, quote unquote, our main guy. And it set Twitter afire. Shane, right back to you, man. Are you on Ronald Jones as 2020 is going to be his year of the new hotness? Or is he old and busted and you're looking at options like Keyshawn Vaughn or Darway Agumbawale?
Yeah, no, Rojo's been my guy, man. I was going back to last year. I was beating the drum for Rojo, but the problem is Bruce Arians is a jackass. So what's going to happen is at some point Rojo is going to miss a block, and then Rojo is not going to be the starter anymore. Or even if he is the starter, guess what? He's going to miss a block in a game, and then he's going to sit him down like he did last year, regardless of the fact that he was wicked efficient as a receiver and as a running back. If it was just based on talent and skill, I'd say it's his year to break out. Bruce Arians, being the jackass that he is going to end up benching him at some point for the less talented, the less explosive, but better blocking Keyshawn Vaughn.
All right, Jerry, we're going to go to one of your faves here in just a second, but tell me about Ronald Jones.
See, like if we're going to talk about the most polarizing players in fantasy right now, like I'm sick of hearing about Ronald damn Jones because it's all we ever talk about. But I think Shane's right. He's been okay. I think it's either super popular to be on him or he's like the Mitchell Trubisky of running backs. Like if you don't even slightly like the man, then you think he's the worst asset in the game. And I think that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. But I'm not gonna villainize Bruce Arians like that. I mean, Rojo had 1,000 yards and he was super efficient in the passing. I think he had like 30 catches and like 300 yards or something. So, I mean, he can do everything that needs to be done. And Tom Brady can get it to him. That's the good news. If he does end up liking Rojo and he does just feature the man, then he's going to just go bananas. I don't know. It's good. This is the one that I don't know, which is why I usually don't mess with Rojo, just because that's such a volatile situation. And Shane, you know off the top of your head how old he is? I know he's super young.
Oh, no,
20,
he's still
23.
Yeah,
He's
he
very
came
young.
out young.
See, so I mean, let's say this dude gets 1,200 yards, which is barely better than what he did last year. That ADP is going to skyrocket. So
and he just turned 23 like 2 days ago. So happy birthday, Ronald! If you're listening.
Of course he listens.
Yes, obviously. So I can't call him old and busted. He's too risky for me.
Here, you know what? Real quick, that just talking about his age thing. So for Dynasty, what's great about him is that he's going to be a free agent by 25, if not before then. Or maybe Bruce Arians will get fired or retire again or something. But Rojo is definitely a guy I love getting thrown in as a throw-in and trades now. He's definitely a guy I still want to buy. I just don't know if he's going to get the full run that he should next year. I think he's going to smash in spots, though. I think he'll do the same thing he did last year, where you're going to look up and you're going to be like, wow, why didn't he get more touches? And then you're going to hear, oh, he missed a block. Go fuck yourself, Arians.
I think it's going to depend what he does early in the season. If my man just goes bananas in the first couple of games, then we are going to hear Rojo's name all season long.
I'm of he's currently the new hotness that I would be looking to flip, just because I have two cons and one pro. The pro is that with Keyshawn Vaughn on the COVID reserve list right now, he's getting all those first team reps with Tom Brady. But I want to go back to an article from last December in the Tampa Bay Times, and this is a quote from head coach Bruce Arians. He works his ass off, and he's going to get better at it. But we need him running the football. But you can't run the football if you can't protect the quarterback. And he was saying that about like 20-something-year-old, Jameis Winston, not 43-year-old Tom Brady. And you can't get Tom Brady broken. The other thing is that I've never seen the weight gain, the off-season bulk thing ever pay off for fantasy purposes. I tweeted today on Wednesday, is it the Eddie Lacy bulk? Or was it the David Boston bulk? Because I've not seen this pay fantasy or on-field production dividends. He's a guy, when he came out, he was a 210-pound slasher. He had a draft profile very similar to Jamal Charles, and now all of a sudden he's 225 pounds. He's Marshawn Lynch. Yeah. I mean, this thing could go a lot of ways right now. So I don't like it when guys bulk up. It was 2018. And Amari Cooper, quote unquote, bulked up and had a very unproductive year that year prior to being traded to the Cowboys. So could I see him being the new hotness? Absolutely. If we look back a year from now in August of 2021, and this guy was the RB 14 on the season, 0% surprised. if this was a guy who got Tom Brady blitzed and smoked in game 2 and never saw the field again, and here come Keyshawn Vaughn, would not be surprised. So those range of outcomes, if you can get a serious offer for him and like a 2021 first, as hot as he is right now, that does not sound non-feasible, I would definitely take a look at it. Now, this next one's for Jerry, so I'm going to start with Shane, because this next guy was supposed to have been the new hotness for 2 years. He's had some bad luck, but I think we all like him. Shane, his name is Darius Geis.
Oh, piss off.
Sure. I'm just gonna bet against his history and say that somehow he'll stay healthy and play, like 12 to 14 games, and he's gonna smash. He smashed every time he's actually played, just about. It's just the whole actually playing thing that's been his issue.
All right, Jerry, defend your mans.
No, I mean, he's right. I mean, I can't bust his balls for that. I mean, I don't think there's a person, and I say this every single time we talk about Darius Geis, there's not a person that plays this game that if Darius Geis plays 16 games will not help you win championships, because he is a supreme talent. He has looked good every single time he has touched the football, but you got to touch the football. So listen, I'm not a doctor. That's why we got Dr. Kyle to come on. He will tell you all about that. And he says, that it's not as bad as some of the other injuries that we talked about with guys. I'm going to trust him, because here's the thing. Those classes, I'm not taking them. I don't want to take any of those medical classes. Good for them. Those are frontline heroes. Bless their hearts. I love Darius Geis, and you can piss off if you don't. I will take him, and I think it's close between him and Juju of who I have the most shares of. So if they fall on their face, oh my God, I'm going to have so many bad teams that I'll be exploding next offseason.
If he falls on his face, we'll have an opener for you next year with the Hank Williams Senior Classic. There's a tear in my beer. But I have more reasons. So like Rojo, I had 1 pro and 2 cons. With Geis, I have 2 pros and 1 con. Obviously, the knee issues are a concern, but it's structural. We saw Willis McGahee come back from knee situations and have a great career. We saw Frank Gore come back from major knee issues and have a great career. Why not Darius Geis? So that is the con, but the pro, man, to Shane's point, when this guy's on the field, he is a beast. I mean, he is a man amongst men, and it's not a lot of stats to put behind it at the pro level, but I like him. And then new offensive coordinator Scott Turner, son of Norv Turner. This family uses a bell cow. Now, as a rookie, Christian McCaffrey was the RB10 in full point PPR, but under the Turner family calling the plays as the OC and the OC assistant, he went to the RB2 overall in PPR in 2018. And then last year, my man set records. So if Geis stays healthy and is the man, I know they got a running back room full of turds right now, but Geis is clearly the most talented guy, and I like Antonio Gibson. But if Geis is healthy, he will 100% be the new hotness in Washington for the Washington football team. All right, next guy, going to the wide receiver room. Christian Kirk, Jerry, the new hotness or old and busted?
You know what? I know your take is more entertaining than mine, so I'm going to flip it and give it right back to you, my friend. What is your take on Christian Kirk?
Christian Kirk is your classic don't piss on my shoes and tell me it's raining type guy. I liked him coming out, but we talked about this analogy earlier with Pat Shurmur. Some people are born to be Batman and some people are born to be Robin. And if this team had thought that Kirk was Batman, they would have never invested in getting DeAndre Hopkins, D-Hop, because they're going to have to pay that man. He's on the last year of his deal. He's making about $13 million. And I got news for you. If you think D-Hop's content making $13 million while he sees Julio Jones and Michael Thomas making around 18 to 20, oh yeah, Amari Cooper too, you're kidding yourself. So they're going to pay the guy. And it's okay to be Robin, but people still believe that he can do it. I think he's an ancillary piece. I think he'll have a best ball game or two like he did last year, that 3-touchdown bonanza. But for me, as the new hotness, no, sir. I don't think you can consider DeAndre Hopkins new in any capacity other than he's new to that team. I don't think there is a new hotness in that wide receiver room in Arizona. DeAndre Hopkins is the solid hotness, but no new hotness for me on Christian Kirk. I think this guy is more bum than the hotness. What about you, Shane? Where are you at with Kirk?
I don't know if he's a new hotness. I don't think he's ever gonna be what a lot of us hoped he was gonna be. I still think he can be a decent wide receiver 3 and give you wide receiver 2 weeks. I'm gonna call him the new notness. How about that? I'm gonna equivocate. I don't know. I don't know what that word is, but I'm gonna try to use that word. But I'm just gonna say he's not the new hotness. That's for sure. And I like him. It's just I don't see it happening there right now.
No, what sad horn for Christian Kirk. But hey, he's going to help Kyler Murray. Those of you that are heavily invested in Kyler, at least he's another weapon for that guy. Here's a guy that I really like. I'll start with him, Mike Williams of the LA Chargers. I mean, he's had a 1,000-yard season. He's had a 10 TD season. Can he put it together? He is coming off of his most targets in his career. He had 90 last year. I still don't know that this is a super high volume offense, but part of the reason why I like him is they've already picked up his 5th-year option for 2021, and Keenan Allen will be 29 and a free agent in March of 2021. So maybe they're eyeing him as the wide receiver of the future. I know he's not necessarily killed it, but if you play in a point per first down league like the Scott Fishbowl 10 is this year, where you get extra points for a first down, here's your guy. In 2018, he had 66 total targets. He had 43 receptions. 42 of them were for a first down. As really good. Last year, he had 49 receptions. 41 of those targets were good for a first down. So maybe he can put it all together. I think his skill set fits a little bit better with the cannon of an arm of Justin Herbert than the noodle whip of my new quarterback, Phillip Rivers, here in Indianapolis. But I think he can still be the new hotness, and you may even see that this year. I mean, last year the guy averaged 20 yards a reception, just over. It's crazy. Jerry, I see you smiling, man. What's up with you and Mike Will?
Dude, I love Mike Williams. Earlier, Shane said that he is always trying to get Rojo thrown into trades. My dude is Mike Williams. He's going to be like 26 this year. Like you said, 10 touchdowns the one year, 1,000 the other. I mean, it's a little scary with Justin Herbert or Tyrod potentially, but like in a startup, I took him at, the end of the 9th round. We're like 100 and some picks into the draft, and I can get Mike Williams there, 1,000-yard receiver. Keep counting, Shane. You're not going to get it. And then, but he's my dude. And it's only because he's so damn cheap, and you could just throw him in. He's your wide receiver 5 or something every time. And he has that flex potential, potentially wide receiver 2. Easy. New hotness. Mike Williams is another one of those dudes that I just have an unbelievable amount of shares of.
I am dying to hear what Shane has to say about Mike Williams.
I actually like Mike Williams too. I think doing as well as he did with Phillip Rivers, who has been a shell of himself for about the past 6 years, is actually very impressive. I know a lot of people didn't like him coming out of college, or maybe a lot of people did. I don't remember. I know a few people didn't like him. They thought all he was a splash play, and that was causing people to buy into him. But I think he's shown that he's excellent deep ball threat. Last year he was underthrown so many times. It felt like every time I watched, what do you call those people? The Chargers. That there was at least, 2 or 3 times that he was just underthrown, just completely underthrown by Rivers, or Rivers just threw to the wrong shoulder. And, I'm not a wide receiver coach, so I don't know that the route, which way the route was supposed to go. But I'm going to guess that it was thrown to the wrong shoulder because Phillip Rivers can't throw anymore. God love him. He can't. He loves throwing those YOLO balls, but he can't actually do it. So I'm kind of stoked to see what Williams can do with Tyrod and Justin Herbert. I didn't watch a lot of Herbert in college, and I keep getting some varying scouting reports on him. But one of the reports I keep hearing is that he can throw deep. So let's see what he does with Williams, because Williams I think there's more in that toolbox too. I like Williams a lot. So he's a guy, if I can get him cheap, I'll definitely take him.
Yeah, I complete agreement. And the Keenan Allen thing cannot be overstated. This is Dynasty. This is the long game. And if they do decide to let him walk because the salary cap gets reduced or he's asking for too much money or he gets an offer somewhere else he wants to go. And just for that reason, I'll just throw this in as a side note since we're chatting. Don't be afraid to look for cheap KJ Hill on your Dynasty waiver wire or if you haven't had your rookie draft late. And Joe Reed is another name that's getting volleyed about in Dynasty circles. So if you're looking for a cheap guy to throw on your taxi, those are a couple of cheap rookies that you can let set for a year and see if either one of these guys happens to pop. And if you double that down with Keenan leaving, could be really good stuff for your roster. Here's a guy that I'm really fascinated to hear. I will go last on this one. Jerry, Anthony Miller of them Chicago Bears.
I don't like him. I don't like him at all. We're talking about Mitchell Trubisky, and he's going to be throwing to Allen Robinson. Plus, he's got Tariq Cohen back there. So I'm going to think that this guy's just going to explode now. And he came out of the league at 24. He's like the Van Jefferson of that class. So the dude had like a 300 yards, 7 touchdown season. That came back down to earth. He grew a little bit in the yards, 600 and something. And then like 2 touchdowns. I don't know. There's just nothing that I believe in that offense that makes me want to invest and think that that's the guy that's going to explode. He's a good talent and I like him. And I have my oldest Dynasty league. I took him in the 2nd round and I've just been holding on to him and he's just sitting on my bench. He's never played a game and I'm starting to believe that he is never going to see a starting lineup for that team, but I'm going to hold on to him. But I'm
You're leaning old and busted. I can just hear
No. I'm fully in the old and busted. I don't want it to be true. That's the problem. Like it's a predicament that I'm in. My heart wants Anthony Miller to hit because I loved him as a prospect, but my brain just says he's a bum and nothing is going to happen with him.
Hurtful. What about you, Shane? The new Hotness, is he a chance to break out in year 3 or is he already headed for old and busted?
I mean, what do you consider a breakout at this point, right? Do I think he'll ever be a wide receiver 2? No. Geez, and I didn't realize how mediocre he was last year. He only scored 8 points a game. Okay. He's got a couple donuts in there. I mean, I don't know. It looks like the ceiling's not that high and the floor is pretty low. Not really what I'm looking for. So, yeah, I'm sorry, Anthony. You're busted, my dude.
Another guy who hit us with some hurtfulness. So he was a guy who has not done a lot of starting. And was really what made me think that he could be the new Hotness there is also Allen Robinson is going to be a free agent this coming off season. And if you go back to week 10, it was week 10, they'd been past their bye at that point. And he went on a bit of a run. And I believe it was because Taylor Gabriel, who's no longer a Bear, was out of that roster. And over those last 7 games, he had 55 targets. And, he converted over 32 of those. So, he was averaging about 4.5 receptions for 65 yards a game. He only had 2 touchdowns in that stretch, but it was his only 2 touchdowns of the season. So that gave me a glimmer of hope in a team that has taken some hits due to COVID opt-outs this year. And again, just looking a little bit further down the road, yeah, I don't love Mitch Trubisky, but I don't love Nick Foles much either, even though he won my man Shane and his Eagles a Super Bowl a couple of years back. I'm not going to call him the new Hotness, but I'm not going to call him the old and busted. But if I had to pick one, I'm going to say the new Hotness. He's a guy that I'm invested in, and I think we're going to see some more things this year, especially with him as the full-blown wide receiver 2 next to Allen Robinson there in Chicago. So, all right, let's go to tight ends. This next one's going to hurt some feelings. It's going to break some hearts. He was given a new teammate in the tight end room in Cleveland, David Njoku. Jerry, David Njoku, can he still be the new Hotness, or is he just old and busted?
David Njoku is only 24 years old. He had a 50-catch, 600-yard season. He's definitely shown us things, and I am 100% messing with all of you. No, that dude is old and busted and not worth a damn thing. Sorry, bud. They brought in Austin Hooper. They have Good God. Odell Beckham Jr. They have Jarvis Landry. Baker Mayfield is not going to win any fantasy championships because that dude is mediocre as all hell. No, I'm good on David Njoku. No, thank you. That's what I think of David Njoku.
A guy who was a first-round pick in a lot of Dynasty's tight end premium drafts that year. I remember he and a guy we're going to talk about in just a minute were going in that 108, 109, 110 range.
Did he get a first-round NFL draft pick too?
That is correct.
That is a very Detroit Lions move. Good for you, Cleveland. The two organizations that are just premier organizations in the league doing dumbass shit like that.
I mean, to me, the bigger mistake on their part was looking at last year and going, you know what? He was really injured. We had a shit head coach. We should probably give up on this guy, even though he just dropped, the year before that, close to 56 receptions and 639 yards. But Cleveland, being Cleveland, was like, you know what? Let's go make Austin Hooper the highest paid tight end in the league. Okay. And then you know what? We're gonna go ahead and just we're gonna exercise the 5th-year option on Njoku because we're really a bad organization through and through, and we just need to show you. I love Njoku. He's still just 24. He's going to be one of those tight ends that it's going to happen on his second team, and that's fine. It's not going to happen in Cleveland.
You're playing the long game?
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy. I mean, it's going to be.
He's
hard.
cheap too.
Yeah, it's going to be hard with COVID in 2020 with playing, roster juggling. That I'm sure is going to happen, but he's not a guy that I want to let go. He's definitely a guy I'm trying to buy up in places and just throw him on the back of my roster and just look. Even if he gives me like an Irv Smith type of season next year, because he'll be the second in that, a lot of 12 personnel that Cleveland's probably going to run. Hooper's a better blocker, so if they keep Hooper in, I mean, Njoku should be the one that's running routes. And without Freddie Kitchens there, hopefully Stefanski will notice like, oh, wait, this guy's really good. Like maybe we shouldn't have given Austin Hooper all this money, but we did. So, oh, well, I'm just going to play Njoku anyway. But either way, I love Njoku. I still think he's got a ton of upside, and he's a tight end. He's still only in his 3rd year, 4th year. We don't expect tight ends to break out usually until like year 4, year 5. Like I said, there's been enough tight ends that have broken out on their second team that I think that's going to be what happens with Njoku.
He is definitely leaning more toward old and busted, but given his athletic profile and his age, he could be the new Hotness at age 26, which is roughly the age that George Kittle is right now, and still give you 4 to 5 really good years of production, even 2 years from now, on what will probably be his new team. And I will say this. New head coach Kevin Stefanski last year as the play caller in Minnesota had 2 tight ends on the field 74% of the time. So he's going to get work, and he changed his tune. He had demanded a trade and then came back this week and said, hey, no, I'm happy in Cleveland. I've been assured I'm going to have a role, and I'll be curious to see what it is. I think Baker does better in the middle of the field. I don't think it's going to make Odell Beckham Jr. happy, just like it didn't make Stephon Diggs happy last year in Minnesota. But this cat's definitely going to have a role, and it may not be huge for fantasy, but it's going to give you enough hope that you'll want to hang on to him. So for today, going into 2020, got to lean old and busted, but definitely don't throw him away or just throw him into a trade. And then how about the guy also from the first round of the 2017 draft class? What about O.J. Howard? Jerry, O.J. Howard.
I mean, they traded for Gronk, who's, what is he, 32? He retired. He came back. He's Tom Brady's boy. Like, if we're going to talk about Darrell Henderson and how we have to look at all the signs around everything, O.J. Howard's one of those people too. I like O.J. Howard. He's unbelievably cheap, and not quite as cheap as Njoku. So I can't really have differing opinions on these two, but for whatever the hell reason, I sort of do. They're both in the exact same situation, and they're same draft class, I think, pretty close in age, and yet I sort of like O.J. Howard. I'm still going to call him old and busted just because that value has tanked. Oh my God, has it tanked? But I think I'm sort of turned on Njoku. I think you both sort of convinced me on that one. If you can hold him on the back end of your roster and just hope that a young tight end can hit, I think it's probably a smart idea. I think I can admit when I am wrong. It happens once every single segment we do. But
what about you, Shane? Are you just giving up on Howard?
Nope. I love OJ Howard. This is part of my hatred and disdain for Bruce Arians. He is a jackass who does no longer wears a Kangol. He wears his ass as his hat. OJ Howard in his rookie season averaged 16.6 yards per reception. Did the same exact thing the following year. And Bruce Arians looked at that and said, you know what? That's a guy that doesn't need to get targets. That's a guy that needs to ride the bench. And we should feature Cameron Brate more often. Dipshit. Again, he's going to be a guy that, okay, Gronk's there. Gronk's washed, whatever. Gronk and Brady can play together for 2 years. OJ Howard can be out of there. After this season, they could actually cut him with no dead cap space. And I'm hoping that's what happens because, again, he's another guy. As soon as he hits that second roster or a better head coach that's like, hey, I have this guy that's like 6'6" who runs like a 4.5. I should probably use him as some type of mismatch, right? Some offensive mind's going to look at that and realize that's what they should do just because Kango Head can't figure it out. So I'm still OJ Howard's another guy back in my roster. Yeah, that's fine. You stay there, buddy. I still believe in you.
He's a guy that I'm actually looking to buy before the season. Now, I know that Arians, true to his it's not always good to fall for the coaching, corollary, but they picked up his 2021 option. They're going to pay this man $6 million next year. And if you're banking on OJ Howard and you like the talent like Shane does and like I do as well, man, I'm banking on Tom Brady. And I really think you're going to see a lot of what they did in New England back when Aaron Hernandez was out of jail and alive and paired up with Gronk. I think it may come at the detriment at times to Chris Godwin, who may not always be lined up in the slot because you're going to see a little bit more, probably a lot more, to be dead honest with you, 12 personnel down here in New England. And remember, if you can keep in more tight ends, Gronk's a very willing blocker. I don't remember if OJ Howard's the greatest blocker, but I know Gronk can for sure. That was one of his calling cards late in his career in New England. And at the worst case, you're going to have a guy who'll be going into his age 27 season as a free agent in 2022. And, much like a guy like, Hayden Hurst, maybe he could wind up in a really good situation with a team that would feature him and give him a chance. So he's not going to be the new Hotness, but he's not old and busted and deserves to be thrown away. All right, Shane, last one. Jonnu Smith, he's been the belle of the Dynasty and fantasy world. Is he going to be the new Hotness?
No.
Or the old and
sorry, I couldn't even let you get to the old busted. Where the fuck do we think these targets are coming from this goddamn offense? Like, what the fuck, people? Come on. A.J. Brown was, a wide receiver 1 for those weeks, not because of the target volume, because he absolutely was like hyper efficient. He was doing things that we just don't see people doing. So we think for some reason they're going to turn away from Derrick Henry, right? And they're going to become a team that passes the ball 35 times a game? Is that what they're going to do? They're not going to do that. They're going to be in the bottom third of the league in pass attempts like they always are. I like Jonnu Smith. I think he's wildly talented and physically gifted, but that doesn't matter. There's going to be 30 passes a game. If they could throw the ball 10 times a game, they would fucking do it in that offense. So, he's old and busted. Again, not due to anything in his control, but just because that offense is just going to limit it. Like, it's A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, and that's it. It's only people from that offense you can count on.
Listen, new rule. I get to talk first. How in the hell do you want me to follow all of that? Come on.
Disagree. Just disagree with all of it.
That's a good argument, though. How am I going to disagree with it? Like, I like Jonnu, and if he would have asked me first, I would have said he's the new Hotness. And then you let Shane talk, and okay, that just fell. That's not good. Hey, those are all good ass points. that I can't really argue with. The efficiency on Tennessee when we did our 3-team parlay, Randy and I, we both said that was it was not repeatable. The efficiency was too absurd, and that offense was going to come back down to reality a little bit. I am not going to call him old and busted because I think that he's a young, great, talented tight end, like you said, and he's got time. Going into 2020, sure, I think I would lean towards old and busted because I think you're right. I think there's going to be a lot of disappointment in that offense, and I think A.J. Brown is included in that. But I do like the man long term, and whether he's there whenever they decide to get a quarterback that's not Ryan frickin' Tannehill, or he goes somewhere else, I think he is going to be a good tight end. But I do agree that people need to temper their expectations for 2020. That man's ding dong does not touch his knee. You got to slow it down a little bit.
Well, that escalated quickly. For me, I was hoping that someone would sway me because I could see this both ways. I mean, this team was in the bottom third of the league in pass attempts between I started to say Stafford, but Tannehill and Mariota. But it could be he could be the number 2 option behind A.J. Brown. It could be Adam Humphries. It could be even Corey Davis. I don't think so. I don't trust any of those guys. And I think part of the tantalizing part of this is equal parts his athleticism and what we remember a couple of years ago, what this team did with Delaney Walker. And man, there's such a wide range of outcomes, but at his cost, I've got to lean toward the old and busted side. That doesn't mean that he's going to be a bust. We use the term
look, tight ends are such a cluster right now. Like anything could happen with any of those middle tier tight ends. Like if he finished as tight end 5, I wouldn't be surprised. If he finished as tight end 18, I wouldn't be all that surprised either. You just have to. The problem is you're not paying tight end 15 numbers or tight end 18 numbers for that dude. You're paying new hotness, and it's souped up hotness, and I think that's unjustified.
Well, I appreciate the time we took to talk about some of these guys. I mean, it's make or break time for almost all of these guys. I think Drew Lock might be the one guy who gets an extra year of run, especially in us super flexors. We like quarterbacks, and teams are supposed to try to win with quarterbacks on the rookie deal. And Drew Lock's got as cheap a one as you're going to find because he was a second-round pick, not a first-round pick like Sam Darnold. But, man, we couldn't have Shane on here without talking about a few trades. So, Shane, you got 3 or 4 trades in you?
I certainly do.
All right, let's go to a 12-team PPR Superflex tight end premium from Matthew Big Chest. He wants to know Lamar Jackson and Nyheim Hines or Kirk Cousins, Nick Chubb, and a 2021 first.
How many starters?
12 team. I'm going to say 10. He didn't tell me the number of starters. He gave me the number of owners and the score.
That's enough for Lamar. I'll take we said Baker, Chubb, and a first.
Cut close enough.
Cousins. I don't. Yeah, why did I spaced out there?
Because Baker is striving to be the next Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I think. Man, I don't know. That's enough to get it done. Depending on my situation, I probably would take that. I like that. I like Chubb and first. Look, man, that's beautiful right there.
What about you, Jerry? I know there's a lot of guys on. I know you've been acquiring a lot of Lamar this offseason, but I also know what a fan of Nick Chubb you are.
I am. I think it depends on your team, but I'm going to say in a vacuum because I'm boring and cliche like every other human being on this planet. But in a vacuum, I like Kirk Cousins, Nick Chubb in the first. I mean, that's a good haul. You get a QB1, you get an RB1, plus you get a first, which maybe you'll shit the bed on it and it won't be worth anything. But if you trade it, it's at least going to have some value, and that value is only going to increase the closer you get to the draft. Yeah, that's a deal. And Nyheim Hines, cool. That ship has sailed. I'm good on that. No, thank you. That dude is worth nothing to me. This trade, that's why shouldn't even have brought him up, because this trade is just Lamar for Cousins, Chubb, in the first.
I didn't even bring up Naheem Hines or whatever. That's just refuse. There's no reason to even talk about him.
Well, I'm going to say that I'm on the same side as you guys. And Naheem Hines in this trade, he is that little piece of kale on the side of your plate. You get like a steak. He's the kale and the orange slice on the side of your plate that you get at breakfast at Denny's.
That you don't ever eat, and you're just pissed off that it's there.
You just flick it off the side of your plate. It's not a really real value. No one eats the orange slice. And I think Kirk Cousins, he's coming off of his worst statistical and fantasy finish as a QB. I think it'll be a little bit better even without Stephon Diggs. So I've got to take Nick Chubb in the first, but I think it's fair. I do want to say that. I think that the trade is fair for both sides. All right, this next one's a little wild because it's a lot for one guy, but it is a tight end premium and it is 12 owners. And this one's from Zach. And someone got Travis Kelce and someone else got James Conner, AJ Green, 2 2021 firsts and a 2021 second. Shane, I see your the calculator in your head adding all this up.
Yeah, I mean, I love Kelce, but the 2 firsts are almost enough for him anyway. So, yeah, I'll take it. I mean, AJ Green's whatever. James Conner, his RB1 upside. Obviously, you're buying him low because he barely played last year, but that's enough for me. I definitely sell Kelce for that.
What about you, Jerry?
Not even close. Easily the package. I mean, James Conner is a borderline first-round pick. Like, there's a real opportunity or a real possibility you could trade the 110 or 11 or 12 for him. Plus the 2 firsts. AJ Green, like Shane said, he's whatever, but he's got a high upside. Plus the second. That's too much. That's too much for that deal. Travis Kelce's nice. Travis Kelce's 31. He's a man amongst boys out there, but that's too much to pass up. Not even close for me.
Too much to pass up. I am going to agree, even if James Conner and AJ Green are only assets of any real value in 2020, the 2 2021 firsts are enough because you can always move those later for something else. And maybe this owner has a Mike Gesicki or a Jay Sternberger or a Blake Jarwin or a young tight end that he feels like he can get enough production out of, and he wants to cash out and kind of compete because – let's be honest, when James Conner and AJ Green, a big if, but if they stay healthy, these are big contributors in a big way. And, Travis Kelce's like 31, 32 years old. And at some point, you got to start doing that. Obviously, he's a cheat code, much like George Kittle. But at that age and what I'm getting in return, fair deal, good deal, I'm taking the first. All right, we got 2 more. All right, this is from our buddy Zach. We have 2 Zachs, Zach Camps and Zach B. All right. We're talking Kenny G and the same Travis Kelce. This is the Travis Kelce pod. Or Hayden Hurst, Christian Kirk, and 2 2021 first. Shane, what do you think? Kenny G and Kelce or the package?
Yeah, no, that's Kenny G and Kelce. I mean, Hayden Hurst, Christian Kirk, and what was it? 1 pick? 2 picks?
2 first.
It's not enough. It's not enough. No.
I will not be arguing with you.
No.
Yeah, like if you split it up, all right, Kenny G for 2 firsts, maybe I could see it. And then we're going to trade Kelce for Hayden Hurst and Christian Kirk. I can't do that. Not in any way, shape, or form. So, no, I'm also on the Kenny G Kelce side. Pretty damn easy.
All right, I got one more from a listener and another one. I'll throw in one that I did recently. All right. 12-team PPR Superflex tight end premium. People are playing in the Lord scoring format. That's good. Wants to know Tyler Higbee and 2 2021 firsts. Seconds for Justin Herbert in a tight end. In a Superflex. So Higbee and 2 seconds. The 1 in 2021 throw me off. So Higbee and 2 seconds for Herbert and a tight end premium. Shane.
No, that's Herbert all day. I mean, I know Higbee went absolutely bananas to end the year. People forget that Gerald Everett was actually the one that they wanted to go bananas in that offense. Besides the fact it's super flex, dude. I mean, Herbert, it doesn't really matter if you like him that much as a prospect because the Chargers did, and they drafted him early in the first round. And that's not even close to me. Like there's seconds, like you shove them up your ass. You better be coming at me with some first when you're trying to get a quarterback out of me in a super flex league.
Gerald?
I will climb to the top of the Empire State Building like King Kong and sing the praises of Tyler Higbee for all to hear. But under no circumstances am I trading that for a quarterback in a super flex league. People undervalue quarterbacks when they are inexperienced in super flex leagues, and it only takes one time. It takes you one time to have a quarterback problem in a super flex league to realize their value. And this would be one of those situations. I like Tyler Higbee so much more than Justin Herbert, but the value is just not there because all it takes for that dude to do is have one good game as a rookie. If he has a good game in the first 3 games, that price shoots up. And what's going to happen if Tyler Higbee has a good game? Well, we already saw him have 5 good games, and people still love to hate the man. The increase, piss off, Shane. No. The potential outcomes and the increase in value is so skewed towards Justin Herbert that I'm easily taking that side.
Yeah, Jerry stole a great point, and I'm both shocked and amazed. I'm shamazed. But I am also a card-carrying member of the Tyler Higbee fan club, and I firmly believe that he can do it again. And I also believe that they drafted Bryson Hopkins to be the replacement for Gerald Everett in 2021 when Everett becomes a free agent. But all that being said, Jerry's right. You don't know that you have a quarterback issue until you have a quarterback issue. Shane and I are in a league together. We're in the Ultimate Dynasty Podcasters League, and I got 2 quarterbacks that I really, really like. I've got Deshaun Watson. I've got Jared Goff, but I didn't have a third. So I had to give up a 21 second and some fab to Izzy of the Dynasty Trade Calculator to get Mitch Trubisky. And the only reason why I'm taking Mitch Trubisky is I think he's going to be the starter, and both of the other 2 guys have early enough buys that I think Mitch will still get me through. Jerry's right. You don't know that you have quarterback issues until you have quarterback issues. All right, my trade, we'll get out of here on one because we shared one of Jerry's last week, and we'll share one of mine this week. So I traded DeAndre Swift and Keyshawn Vaughn and got back Josh Jacobs. Obviously, the scoring format doesn't matter, but it is PPR. 12-team.
See, I'd rather have Swift than Jacobs straight up.
Holy ho!
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's my issue with Jacobs. Again, it's not him, the player. It's what the Raiders are doing. They didn't target him much last year. And I just read somewhere, and I think it might have been fantasy data on their site, that Josh Jacobs didn't see a target on 3rd down all last year, which is just ridiculous because the guy is an excellent receiver, right? That's what we saw on tape. That's what we thought. That's what the Raiders saw. But then they went out of their way not to use him in that role. Then they were like, you know what we should do? We should bring back Jalen Richard and then maybe bring in Devontae Booker too. And then this Lynn Bowden guy, we're going to make him a running back, and he's probably going to catch passes too. So it's not that I don't like Jacobs. It's just I don't like his situation. And John Gruden's going to be there longer than probably the 3 of us are going to be alive. So who knows when that'll change, if ever. So, yeah, I'm going to have to take the DeAndre Swift side there. And saying that, being a running back for Matt Patricia is terrible. But I think long-term, that should only be like a 1-year hindrance, hopefully. Right, Jer?
Well, if you want to talk about how much you hate Bruce Arians, I will save all of you this next rant on Matt Patricia and his stupid pencil and his stupid, awful beard. I'm going to say Jacobs just because I think I can get more for Jacobs. If I'm going to shop Jacobs, I think I can get more than Swift and Vaughn in a potential trade. But my nipples did get super hard when you said you would take Swift over Jacobs straight up, as the Honolulu blue and silver flag waves in my heart. That was wonderful to hear.
Well,
so hold on. Sorry, Randy. So you love yourself some DeAndre Swift then.
He's I'd say he's the 4th running back of the class for me. Obviously CEH is up there, Dobbins, and what's the other guy's name? JT, and then Swift. That would be 4. That's how numbers work. There's definitely.
You think all these guys are like bona fide RB1s coming
Yeah,
very fast.
it's hard. J.K. Dobbins is probably the one that won't do it this year. You know what I mean, with Ingram there. But I can't imagine that Swift is going to have to deal much with Kerryon Johnson. Kerryon Johnson's going to take himself out of that. He's going to tap out. He's already tapped out mentally from some of the things that he said. And unfortunately, his body breaks down since he's been a high school kid. Like I did an article on him last year, so I know that he's an injury history, whatever. If they're not all related, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I just know the guy is consistently injured. It's funny is I didn't even care about Keyshawn Vaughn. Like he literally, like he means nothing to me, even though I know, some drafts, rookie drafts, he was going at what, like 110, 111. Yep. We thought, he's definitely going to be the guy there. Now we're not so sure. But yeah, no, I like Swift. I definitely do like Swift. Look, I like Jacobs too. Don't get me wrong. I think Jacobs is going to be a low-end running back one. And I think his upside is much higher than that if they would just use him that way. It's just I fear that they won't.
And that coaching staff isn't going to turn over.
No, never.
Well, this was not the point of the trade. Dr. Kyle, on the Gambling the Fabulous Big Bet podcast with me, he made a season-long prop bet getting 19-1 that Josh Jacobs would be the league leading rusher in the league. And that's an offense that's returning all 5 offensive starters on the offensive line. And Vic Tafer of The Athletic posted this on Twitter the other day that it chapped John Gruden's ass that Kyler Murray won the Offensive Rookie of the Year and not Josh Jacobs, and that he has every intention of featuring Josh Jacobs in every way possible to show the media how much they missed on this kid. Now, I didn't make the trade because of that, but I can tell you it didn't hurt my feelings none when I heard that John Gruden had said that at the open portion of the media day the other day. And I drafted Keyshawn Vaughn Shane at the 202 in our Ultimate Dynasty Podcasters League. I needed a little running back depth. Maybe, just maybe, he'll get a chance. Maybe Rojo gets Tom Brady killed after all. And speaking of killed, man, you guys have been killing it at the HQ. Tell us who's been on. Tell these people to go back and look for some of the big names you've had on, and maybe some people that could be on the horizon if you're able.
Yeah, so we had a couple weeks back, we had a fun panel when Sipes was off because basically we needed to make up for the fact that Michael Sipes wasn't there. We had like Chris Allen on, Spaceman Dave Wright, Sam Holt, Katie Flower, who we have on all the time. We love Katie. We've had Scott Barrett on a few times, Grant Barfield. There was an ESPN guy in there at some point. You put me on the spot. I can't remember people's names. Bob Harris.
So many Bob people Harris. He doesn't even remember.
Bob Harris, who we love. We just had Andy Singleton, our buddy, on.
Virtual who's who.
Yeah, I mean, upcoming. I'm looking to get some, like I said, some new voices that we haven't had a chance to talk to before. Like we're gonna have Stepmom Lauren on at some point, hopefully soon. Dingus always he's always talking about coming on. We might have to actually get him on one day. I don't know, man. Jeremy does all the booking. He just gets these people that I'm like, oh wow, I get to talk to this person. That's pretty cool. And then apparently I forget who they are when I go on another podcast and can't remember their names.
So I've just learned you are officially the Jerry of your own podcast.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I am. It's funny. I'm the most replaceable member of the HQ by far. I don't do any of the editing. I don't do any of the booking.
You're Jerry.
I do promotion and I'll add shit to a show sheet. And I just discovered like 2 weeks ago that apparently Jeremy and Michael talk for like 40 minutes before the show, every show. And it was wonderful to me. I jumped in for the first time like 2 weeks ago and was like, wow, this is great. We should do this more often. And they're like, we do this every week, Shane. You never come. And I'm like, well, maybe I will. I haven't been back since. But you know what I mean? Like, it's a wonderful idea.
It's good to know that you're invited. It's good to know that if you want to.
I could show up. I mean, like, if I wanted to contribute to the show more, I definitely could. The best part about that show is getting to talk to Jeremy Browen and Michael Sipes every week. Seriously, the three of us kind of fit together, you know. I don't know that anyone else could put up with the bullshit that they put up with dealing with me on a weekly basis. And that cuts, you know, all three ways. You know how it is with your co-hosts. You know, you love them more than anyone else could, and some days you want to punch them in their dick, but they'll always be your brother.
Yeah, that's how I feel about Jerry. I can make fun of Jerry, but
Right.
you can't make fun of Jerry. That's how family works. So
Exactly.
speaking of family, man, you've always been part of ours from the Dynasty and fantasy standpoint. You've been like a big brother to both of us, and thank you for jumping on and contributing to our pod.
Oh, man, thank you for having me on. I love coming on. You know, I did say last week, like, I'm just going to cut back on appearances because I got tired of hearing myself talk, but not this one. You know, you ever want me to come on, I'm coming on.
Well, I appreciate it, man. And Jerry, you got anything before we wrap up?
Nah, listen to the HQ. Jeremy's awesome.
Sure.
Jeremy will talk shit about Michigan fans, so that makes me feel happy. Sipes is a cool dude that he will talk about anything, and that's what makes him awesome. Shane's the man. I mean, Shane's been the man since he created a Twitter. If that says anything about how long I've known the man. Randy, you're pretty cool too.
Don't lie to these people on the way out. But on behalf of Jerry, Shane, and myself here at the Dynasty Warzone, we're just trying to make the world a better place for fantasy football. We'll be back here on Wednesday with more Dynasty talk. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Mr. Shane, thank you so much for jumping on with us, buddy.
No, man, thank you. I got to go yell at my kids.
Yeah, I know. I can tell you. Jerry, I'm going to call you back on a Google Hangout. I'll call you.
Right on. Later, Shane.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Yep.